Hi guys, it's Nikki from Reborn Boutique, and today is part 2 of my silicone making tutorial. Now, just to keep in mind, I said this in part 1, I am not a professional by any means. I watched YouTube videos to try and work this out. I may even miss a few steps along the way. I'm doing my best to remember what it is that I did when I made my silicone doll. Now, if you watch part 1, I show you how you start with aluminium foil and polymer clay and give you a little bit of an idea of how you do the structure of the body of your clay baby. This video is about going from your clay baby and then making your mold. So, we'll start from the start. You've got your mold. The first thing you're going to need, and you order it from Smooth On, is royal jelly. Royal jelly is your lifesaver. This is a thing that's going to ensure that your silicone mold releases from your polymer clay, and it's also going to make sure that your baby releases from your silicone mold. Without this, it doesn't work. So this is called royal jelly. You will get it from Smooth On, the same place you get your EcoFlex from. Okay, so the first thing we do is we put some royal jelly in a container, get at least 10 of these cheap brushes, not too cheap so that the bristles come out, and you paint on the royal jelly on every crevice of your clay doll, every single crevice. Let it dry for a few minutes. Do another layer. I normally do 3 layers on the polymer clay mold itself. Normally, silicone will not stick to polymer clay, so you don't really have that much of an issue, but just to make sure, I do 3 layers of royal jelly. The second thing you're going to do is, you've got here, so this is this is actually dragon skin. Dragon skin you can make the silicone mold from. I tend to pour the doll in EcoFlex. Anyway, forget it. Pretend both these things say dragon skin. Dragon skin A, dragon skin B. You're going to get 2 measuring cups. I normally use little shot glasses about this big. You're going to get 2. You're going to pour equal amounts of A into 1 cup and B into the other cup. Make sure they are exact same amounts in each cup. Then you're going to pour A into B and you're going to mix it together. Once you've done that, you are going to add some pigmentation colour, and you're going to add, I normally do, actually the first layer I probably do clear, because the first layer that you apply of your EcoFlex has to go on really smooth, because the first few layers have to be really thin in order to pick up the details in your baby. So now we're putting on thin layers of the A and B mixed together, and you can add on the subsequent layers a pigmentation colour in order to know where you have covered. So if you're trying to do see-through, I do the first layer see-through so it doesn't stain the polymer clay mold. But the other layers I tend to do green or red or pink or whatever it is, so that I can see where I've covered. Once you apply a colour, you will see, oh hang on, I've missed there. Oh no, I've actually missed there. You've got to get every crevice of your clay mold that you can get, because you're creating the first layers of the mold. You're then going to go back and mix more A, more B, put A into B, or B into A, whichever one said, it doesn't really matter. Mix it together, and you're going to keep doing this until you end up with something that looks like this. Now, the thickness of your mold, so basically, this didn't come out of this mold, this is an example, but inside would be this. You have put so many layers on top of your polymer clay mold that you end up with something like this. Now, as it gets to the end, I tend to use a thickener, and that's also purchased from Smooth On, and it's a thickener that thickens up the silicone so that you get these kind of chunky bits, but I only do that at the end. I don't do that at the start or anywhere near. Just take it slow. Now, also, in between layers of putting silicone on your polymer clay, you have to let it dry. I use a hair dryer. I've spoken to the company, they said that's fine, you can use a hair dryer in order to dry your layers quicker. Otherwise, you'd have to wait quite a while. I also made a bucket with a screw coming up in order to place my polymer clay mold upside down and make a hole at the top of your pour spout in order to sit it on top of a bucket and then be able to paint it like this. And that way you can paint 360 around and then use your hairdryer right around. Otherwise you'll have to do one side first, let it dry, then do the other side. And it does all end up connecting up because it's silicone and silicone sticks to silicone. So the thickness of this on here you can see is quite thick. In there you can see the different colours, there's red in there, and you can see how thick that needs to be. The thicker your mold, the better it is. The thicker your mold will hold the shape of your doll better. So you've now done this. You've now put layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer until you get at least this thickness. If you do it too thin, when you pour the silicone into your mold, when you pour it in, it will just expand. Okay, and your shape will be completely disfigured. This has got to be a really good thickness. Once you've done all that, you are going to make a plaster cast. Now, some people have used like this molding stuff I've seen. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like it's not Play-Doh, but it's like a molding. They get it comes in a bucket and they pull it out and they roll it out and they put it over their mold and it just works great. But I couldn't get my hands on that. I just used normal plaster, stuck it in water, and then put layers until I got a shape. The purpose of the plaster cast is to hold your doll in place, otherwise without too much expansion. Now, I leave the arms free and I leave the toes free. And the reason I do that is so that when you're pouring the silicone into the hole, so you've got your pour spout. Remember we did a pour spout? This is the reason why. When you're pouring the silicone into your pour spout, you can actually squeeze the arms and squeeze the toes, and that's going to allow you to make sure the silicone has gone through your entire mold. Now, a lot of people, the professionals, use the machines that compress the silicone in order to bring the bubbles to the top and make sure there's no air. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Now, when speaking to the company, they have told me on little dolls this size, if you can't do that, then make sure you pour your silicone from a height. And that allows the bubbles to sort of squeeze out before they hit your mold. Okay, and that sort of helps with the bubble situation. All right, so we've done our polymer clay baby. We've painted A and B mixed together over and over and over and over and over. Now it sounds silly, but I'm trying to give you a visual. You end up with this mold, okay? You then make your plaster mold that sticks on top. And then it's time to pour your silicone. Now, on the back of your baby, this is wrong. Don't copy this. This was a practice for me, so I just cut a line down the back. Don't do that. Cut a key. Cut a key like this, little squares, so that when your doll comes out, when you go to seal your doll, it clicks back together and you won't have a seam line. This has a massive seam line because I cut it straight down the back. Now, once you've cut your key line down here, because obviously we're going to have to seal that up, inside your mold, you must put layer upon layer of royal jelly. Now, royal jelly ensures that when you pour the silicone into the top and it sets, we can take the mold off and our baby will release from inside the mold. If you don't hit every crevice several times, it will not come out of your mold. It will stick and you'll lose fingers and you'll lose toes. If you leave bunches of royal jelly wet in like the hand or the foot, it's like a puddle, it will not form. So you have to really make sure that you put your royal jelly inside every crevice of your mold, but use a hairdryer to make sure that it's dry. Do not leave puddles of royal jelly in the toe or little puddle in the arm, because what happens is the silicone just doesn't form. So you won't have a hand, you won't have a foot. I do this process at least 5 to 6 times, and this is all by trial and error. I absolutely recommend that you do it more times than less. Really make sure, you'll know when it's dry, because you won't see any moisture, but it'll almost be like slimy, kind of a slimy texture. So you've done your release perfectly. You lock your key back up, because remember you have to cut your key in order to get in to be able to do your inside, and then you seal this back up with silicone. So you mix your A and B together, you seal it back up, this all locks back in perfectly. That's right, isn't it? Yeah, well, that's the way I do it. Now, you're going to pour your silicone. You get your EcoFlex, A and B, put them out equally, mix them together, pour from a height, and fill your mold. Now, personally, I tie this to a high chair. I put a belt across here, a belt across here. Do whatever you use to hold this in place. Do not squeeze. I have done a full body silicone where I have squeezed the belt onto the chair too tightly, and the head has impressions on both sides. Okay, so that's something that's really important. Wherever you're going to place this doll, because you obviously can't place on its back, all the silicone's going to come out. It has to be upright. There's a lot of different ways people do it. I tie it to a high chair with gaffer tape and whatever I can get to make it stay. But if you're going to use something like a belt to hold it tight, do not press hard. Make sure you've still got your round head, or you're going to lose your head. Okay? All right, so just on a final note, I've probably missed some bits and pieces, but it gives you a rough idea of where to start. Out of this mold came this baby. So I made this little one. This is not the same mold as this one. I can show you this another day. But this is the baby that I made. This is the same. This baby came out of this mold. All right, so you can see, very cute. Now she's very pink because I tried to paint. Painting's a whole nother thing. I'm not even going to go there. I don't even know enough about it. As you can see, I ended up with peeling. I ended up with just, it's still peeling off to this day. I wish I'd never have painted it, because when she came out, she was actually really good. Actually, on one other note, when you're pouring your EcoFlex into your mold to make your baby, put your skin color in. You've got to mix your skin color in. So you've got to keep mixing your skin color in prior to pouring it into the mold. So prior to making your baby, get your big tubs ready, A and B, and mix them together. Then put your skin pigmentation color in. Otherwise it's going to come out clear. That's a very big point. So this is the baby that I got. Now, as far as cutting off the pour spout, don't ask me. Every time I do it, it comes out horrible. I do not know how people do it and come out with a good result. I really don't. This one looks like it's been hacked out by a chainsaw. I don't know how they do it. That is something, if you guys know how they do that, please let me know, because I've given you a lot of tips and that's probably the only thing I really don't know. But as you can see, she's got full body, squishy tummy. So look, it does work. It does work. Is she gorgeous? Does she look like a real baby? Was it fun? Hell yeah, it was. When you get that first doll out that doesn't look like something that Chucky, that's from the Chucky Halloween, it's really exciting. So give it a go, have a bit of fun. If you've got any questions, just let me know. I may have the answer, I may not. Again, what I'm doing in this video is not necessarily right at all. I'm just showing you the tips that happened to me when I made silicones. Please remember to subscribe. YouTube love your views, but they much prefer a subscription. I have a child here, like all the other videos. What happens at this part of the video?